right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. In the house, we have Brian Devaney coming at us. What you got going, Brian?
Hey, not too much. It's good to see you. And I didn't realize I was going to be interviewed by one of the fastest human beings on the planet today.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
exactly.
exciting.
In the day, back in the day.
Yeah,
Notice
back
how
in the day, not today. And it grew. A lot of people don't realize I grew up overseas, and we ran. That's what it was like. I mean, we were in the jungle. We were. That's how we did, swinging from vines and running from gators and tie. It's just what we did, Brian, and we did it without a helmet on.
Well, that's impressive.
Hey, so as we talk about, some of the safety devices, we're just going to hop into it because it's what we were talking about before the show, helmets, and Dave, when you think about football, you think about all the, football helmets, how they've really came up and changed. It's all about that concussion. It's all about safety. Brian, have we seen the same thing in the construction sites?
Well, we're starting to, and it's actually something that, out of all the things that I find myself doing day to day, it's something that I'm the most passionate about. We are nowhere in the world do we seek to protect people's brains as poorly as we do in construction. Their traditional, granddad's hard hat, the one that you see, that iconic symbol of construction, right? The only thing that is designed to do is to protect a worker from falling objects. It doesn't protect a worker should they slip, trip, or fall. And falls, by the way, are the number one cause of death and the number one cause of injury on construction sites every single year. So, a significant injury, I should say. So the trend that we're seeing in this country is a movement to helmets. And there's a company that's based out of Europe. And by the way, when it comes to safety, a lot of the innovation in safety comes from Europe. There's a company based out of Italy, Cask, that really is driving the trend towards better brain protection in this country. And so we're seeing some of the largest GCs and the largest companies in the world in this country that are driving the initiative to saying, you know what, we are going to invest in our employees and we are going to spend the proper amount of dollars to protect their brains so they can get home at night.
So on these the helmets that most of us use today, the newer ones coming out, are they more comfortable? Are they what's the big difference in the say the new versus the old?
Sure. So there is a comfort factor for sure. One of the things that you'll hear when you talk about helmets is performance, and so it's a breathability factor. There's an airflow factor. In addition to that, these helmets sit lower on your head. So you actually have some situational awareness as to where the top of your head happens to land.
Yeah, so the look of them is much different. Like I'll tell you here for drivers, hey, a lot of them carry like the old hard hat inside the truck because they got to go to certain job sites and they'll throw them on. How much different is that look at, you said it sits lower, but is it still the same basic shell design, or is it a much different look?
It's completely different. It looks like a helmet. It doesn't have that traditional brim that you're used to seeing in a hard hat. It comes with a chin strap, right? And it also has a specialized, in order for this helmet to do what we need it to do, it's very, very important for somebody out there to understand that this is a buyer beware situation. There are ANSI, which is the American standards for head protection. Well, there are a European standard that's far more stringent. It's EN 12492. And what it designed is it's impact, but it's also retention. So this thing is going to stay on your head. So to answer your question, it looks different. It feels different. It's far more comfortable. I always joke, I'm up here in Philadelphia, and I always joke that I sweat when it snows out. And in the middle of the summer, a few years back, I'm wearing my helmet. And I left the job site and I was crossing the street and I just ran my hand through my hair and my hair was bone dry. And it did a phenomenal job of keeping me cooler. And I didn't even realize it until I was crossing the street.
I'll tell you, having ridden motorcycles, the helmet itself on a motorcycle, if you drop it or what have you, you got to replace it because it only has a one crash deal. Is that going to be the same kind of construction that we're talking about for these helmets?
So what we're going to tell you is a couple things. One, just as with any piece of protective equipment you use, you should inspect it prior to each use. And that isn't, once a day. That's, if you take your helmet off to eat lunch, inspect it before you put it back on. But if you drop it from just, standing height, things like that, we don't have to take it out of service. However, if it was involved in an impact event, meaning you slipped, tripped, and fell, or something knocked into it, we're going to suggest that you take it out of service.
Gotcha. And for the construction worker out there that's saying, man, that can get expensive,
Yeah.
Replace these, I'm going to say, hey, consider a different job if you continue to get your head and slip and fall. Maybe you're in the wrong profession on that. Hey, Brian, I like that side, the cost. So let's talk about that. Is there a major difference in the cost of that, say, the Euro standard versus the ANSI?
There is. There's a significant difference. The cost is going to be that $100 plus price point, where people today are used to paying $12 to $15. But my answer to that is those of us in the trades, we won't hesitate to spend $200 on a good pair of steel toe boots that might last us a year. But a quality helmet you're going to find that it is a 10-year helmet. It carries a long-term warranty, like 3 years. So this thing is designed to stay with you. So when you take that cost, you say, this thing's going to stay with me for 10 years. And now all of a sudden, and it's $15, then we're talking a low cost for a product that, in my opinion, is going to save your life in the event of a slip, trip, or fall. I happen to, through the pandemic and leading up to now, I know of 6 people that are alive today because they were wearing helmets. And that's just people that I'm connected with.
I'm thinking we need to get Drive Safe Dave one for the shower after the story today. Did you hear that?
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking of some products I had that might be able to keep you a little safer.
You know what? I'm all in. After I sat down hard today, I'm all in, because that is not a good move by my part. All right, Brian, let's talk a little bit about, I got to hear a note here. What is a lasher?
So I had a really cool experience. I guess about 3 weeks now. I had to go up to, with some colleagues, up to one of the largest ports in the New York City metro area. There are folks on that port that their job, when a ship comes into port, these containers are lashed to the ship, right? Make sure that they don't fall off while they're traveling at sea. And conversely, when the container ship is leaving that port, they lash those containers back down for their journey back to wherever they're headed. So a lasher's job is to climb up on these containers and unfasten the containers so that they can be removed by the cranes. You want to talk about a dangerous job, exposed to multiple hazards, and not to mention a fall, which is significant enough, but then, a lot of that fall could be into water, which creates a whole other set of problems.
So what are some of the PPE, what's some of the equipment, and what's some of the things involved in when we're discussing this job? Obviously, you went there as the safety to learn about it. So tell us what we're doing in regards to these lasher and protecting them out there on the ships.
So what these folks do is there's a basket that is essentially lifted up on a crane, and it's put on top of the containers. That basket is what they use to connect their fall protection equipment to, so that they can operate. So we've solved a problem because we've given them something to connect to. Should they fall, we're going to arrest that fall, right? That's a win. But the thing that we don't talk about, and I call it the dirtiest secret in fall protection, is rescue. Is we've done everything right, but we've still fallen. Now what do we do? And the challenge is that calling 911, while should be part of your rescue plan, can't be your complete rescue plan. We should be able to, at any job site, whether you're at a marine terminal, a construction site, whatever it happens to be, we should have the adequate equipment and ability to affect a rescue in a timely manner. Because, we talk about, and a lot of times in this country, we think about the big cities and all that, but there's a lot of America that's very rural, and it could take quite a while for rescue services to get on site and effect a rescue. So at job sites, we need to be able to do that ourselves.
You probably see some of the same scenarios in oil and gas, right? Where they're out in the middle of nowhere, and you have to be able to rescue at that point. there's no calling 911. It'll take too long.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a concern. So how do we address that? And I'm fortunate enough to have been able to partner up with some folks that are making products that take rescue and take the complication of rescue and can make it very, very easy. There are some scenarios where we just need a technical rescue team. There's nothing we can do about it. But most of the common scenarios, with the right equipment, we could get that rescue done in a pretty efficient manner.
You know, we've had several guests on, and one of the things that was brought up is that even that harness that holds the guy and arrests them from their fall isn't all. Once it's done that, it becomes then a dangerous moment in getting them out of that harness and rescuing them, right? Being trapped in that harness for a while can also cause its own set of problems, right?
It absolutely can. There's a terminology out there that's called suspension trauma. The technical term is orthostatic intolerance. So when you fall and you're hanging there, what happens is that, the blood is pumping through your heart and it gets to your lower extremities. Well, something that I've learned over the course of years is that once the blood gets down towards your feet, it needs you to help it pump back up towards your heart. And how do we do that? Well, we move. Whether we know it or not, we're always moving. And we're doing that unconsciously to help keep the blood flowing in our body. So when you're suspended there, the blood can't pump up as adequately as possible. So it winds up pooling. It's something called lactic acidosis, which can essentially create some it turns your blood almost into a poison, but can also create blood clots, which can cause cardiac arrest, stroke, you name it. So just because we've arrested the fall doesn't mean the emergency has just begun. And this concept of suspension trauma can set in a matter of 5 minutes. It doesn't take long.
When you're teaching the rescue out there in the field, is that happening on the whiteboard? Is it classroom? How are you teaching rescue?
So it's a mix of both. You're using the whiteboard. We're talking about it. We're doing some theory talk. But when we're educating adults, the best way, and really we see it in the world with no matter what the age of the student is these days, is hands-on. So I've got a trailer that I drive around with, and I have a 13-foot boom that I can actually lift up. And so I can use my winch and I can raise you up about a foot off the ground, right? It's safe, it's controlled, but you can feel what the effects of hanging in a harness feel like. There's I call it the $25 solution to $1 million problem. There's a device out there, they're called trauma relief straps. They connect to your harness. So assuming that no other medical event has happened, you're conscious, alert, oriented, you can deploy those trauma relief straps, step into them, and what it does is it takes the pressure off of those leg straps around your legs. It allows you to hang there longer so that you can be rescued.
That's a cool piece of equipment. What's some of the equipment that rescuers are using to come get you? I mean, what are some of those equipments? Because obviously you're teaching them different deals. What are some of the equipment that they should be equipped with and know how to use?
Sure. So there's been devices in the construction world called controlled descent devices. And again, an innovation from Europe that is brought to this country by a company called Faltech is a product called the Unidrive system. And the Unidrive system is a multifaceted controlled descent. I can raise somebody up, I can lower them down, I can use a wheel, a ratchet, I can use a drill. So it creates a very quick and effective rescue solution. So what we're trying to do is offer a solution when we're training our clients that will help them effect a rescue, and they don't have to deploy an extensive amount of rope and rigging and have hours and hours and hours of training. With a system like I mentioned, I can train you in 2 hours, and you can be competent in the operation of that equipment.
So Brian, if people want to get to you and talk to you and find out more about all of the safety solutions that you're talking about, how do they do that?
So I'm all over the place. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brian Devaney. You can find me on Instagram, B Devaney Safety, Twitter, the same handle. So I'm pretty accessible. If you Google search me, you're probably going to find me, Brian Devaney, Sales Solutions. We're out there in the universe, and our job is quite simple. What we want to do is we want to help people, find the products that will intersect with what they need, right? Compliance and doing the right thing, and that's what our business is.
That's fantastic. All right, Brian, man, we appreciate you coming on. We're always here to support safety. We want you to get the word out about safety and always work to make it happen. But before you go, we want to ask you to state your name, who you're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that?
Sure can. I'm Brian Devaney with Sales Solutions Incorporated. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you coming on, buddy.